This, right here, was my first introduction to anime. Only it wasn't anime. To my parents and I, this was a cartoon. Later, these would become my cartoons. Although most of the time, the intro music and animation masterpieces were better than the rest of the show. We didn't know or care at the time, but this was all because they were produced by Japanese animation studios. The animations, not the music. That's all American, baby, with Mask being my all-time favorite. Sorry, Thundercats lovers, you guys played out that song to death. Besides, Mask has that played on the radio quality that Thundercats lacks. Anyway, once the 1990s hit, the cartoons weren't the same, and I was aging up. On one faithful sleepover, my best friend introduced me to Japanimation and changed my life forever.
Saturday Anime on the Sci-Fi Channel. Next.
Tetsuo Natomu, also known as Astro Boy, came from 1963 and is widely considered to be the first syndicated anime to be distributed in the United States. From here, other shows would come in such as Mazinger Z, Speed Racer, Battle of the Planets aka Gatchaman, Beast King Go Lion aka Voltron, Macross aka Robotech, and many more. But there was hardly any way to obtain much merchandise from these series. A lot of the time, the toys from Japan would show up as completely different toys. For example, this Shogun action vehicle Vertilift by Mattel is the Poppy Varidorin from Himitsu Sentai Go Ranger, the first Sentai team ever. Heck, it even says Varidorin and Gorenja on the wings. Then there's the infamous Transformers Jetfire incident. So Hasbro licensed some transforming robots from Japanese companies. Then they created the cartoon Transformers. One of the toys that they had was a Tokotaku Macross VF-1S Super Valkyrie, and they called it Jetfire. Harmony Gold licensed the anime Super Dimension Fortress Macross. They dubbed it, changed all the songs to one English song, and released it. When they were ready to release the toys, Hasbro already had the license to the crown jewel centerpiece of the toys. And, well, they had to change their strategy, and so did Hasbro with their show. Anyway, these Japanese cartoons didn't have a lot of merch, and you could forget about the manga. Then, it happened.
This can't be happening!
I'm sure you thought I was going to say Toonami. Nope, not yet. We're still a few years away. In the late 1980s, early 90s, convention halls and a few theaters had anime films being shown. At this point, only the nerdiest of nerds knew about all this. In 1995, a 1-2 punch of anime hit kids weekday mornings before school: Dragon Ball and Sailor Moon. There was something different about these cartoons. We couldn't put our finger on it, but they were special. I fell in love with Dragon Ball. Yes, Dragon Ball, not Z. This was a quiet time before Z and rocking some kind of dragon. This was Dragon Ball with adventure and meaning. and I just gave away part of my reasoning for loving Dragon Ball so much. The other was the characters. Sailor Moon seemed interesting. It was a lot like the Power Rangers, but for girls. Monster of the Week, colored uniforms, one ultimate attack that finishes the monster. The only thing was, since I'm a male, I was pretty much not allowed to enjoy Sailor Moon, or I'd be bullied for yet another thing.
Will somebody please cue that fight?
Samurai Pizza Cats were on a different level. The scripts were so wacky, and everything was paced at neck-breaking speeds. The animation and character designs were top notch. Of course, in later years we found out that the episodes were ad-libbed. Then there was Ronin Warriors. A lot of people seem to love this show. I didn't. Coming from a Mexican household, to me, Ronin Warriors was a knockoff of Saint Seiya. It might as well have been the core to G.I. Joe. On one faithful sleepover, after some awesome 90s Pizza Hut, my friend and I stayed up and played Nintendo. Then around midnight or 1 a.m., we flipped on the Sci-Fi Channel. Saturday Anime was my introduction to the world of Japanimation. At the time, that's how you said it, Japanimation. This show was eventually hosted by Apollo Smile, a blonde girl that wore a one-piece suit made to look like something from Evangelion. In this program, many youths were introduced to anime. This show introduced us to Robot Carnival, Dominion Tank Police, Akira, Vampire Hunter D, and my personal favorite of all time, Project A-ko, just to name a few. Around this time, I knew a handful of anime fans. My best friend, a couple of Filipino kids, my one cousin, Gali, and my brother. I was in high school when one of the Filipino kids in my drafting class pulled out a few Dragon Ball Z trading cards. I had no idea that Dragon Ball went past Goku wearing a blue gi. I saw this card, and I bought it from him. Anime stores weren't even a thing yet. And you can forget about comic book shops. And Target, Walmart, and Kmart having anything to do with anime was completely unimaginable. But small hole-in-the-wall shops were popping up. I still have this flyer from the one shop my best friend and I knew about. The place was called Anime Comics. Oh, and look at this. Here's proof that there was still little knowledge about anime. It says that both Dragon Ball Z and Sailor Moon are trademarks of the Bandai Company of Japan. This is laughable. It's not Bandai, but Toei Animation Company, DOI. So let's take a look at Anime Comics today. On the flyer, it says that it's directly above Konching's Cafe. Now looking at this photo, we can see Konching's Cafe is right here, and above that looks like some kind of a restaurant. I don't know, there's chairs outside and it says that it's open. But that's okay, this is an older photo. Now looking at Yelp, it turns out that Konching's Cafe is closed. And in Street View, we can see that it's now called Erlindas. And above that, we have a tax service place that's next to an income tax place. So that sign is rolled over from the income tax place, or it really is a tax service place. That's kind of sad. Now, in the same shopping plaza, there used to be a place called Comic Odyssey. From what Yelp reviews say, it mostly catered to trading card collectors and gamers, but the photos show comics as well. And you can even play some 360 there. Unfortunately, you can tell that it was on the ground level, so it definitely wouldn't have been in the same place as Anime Comics. Maybe I should rent out that place and sell anime stuff. I'll be the new anime comics guy. Yeah, from North Carolina and the high prices in California? I don't think so. This wasn't the only place to get your early anime fix. We would get catalogs from The Right Stuff. This is where you can go look at some cool anime pictures and read a small synopsis about the VHS you were about to order, or not. Looking in these, I would dream, nay, still dream of owning a Project A-ko animation cell. Also during the time of the hole-in-the-wall anime stores was one card game. No, it was not the Dragon Ball Z card game. It was this, Animehem by Pioneer. This was also another way that we could find out about anime that we've never seen before. Things such as Dominion Tank Police. Now at some point, like many kids, my best friend moved away. Luckily he was still in town, but he was a little bit further away, and he went to a different school than I did. Lucky for him, his school was full of Asian kids. And in San Diego, the Asian kids just flocked to anime. These friends also had different tapes with bootleg animes, and my friend was able to build a tape that contained a bunch of anime intros and endings. He would then duplicate his tape, which was a duplicate of another tape, and he'd give me the third generation of that tape. And here's that tape. With this tape, I was able to enjoy anime music, as well as make an audio tape of it with my mini boombox.
Akane, there's something I think we should, get out in the open.
Yes? What is it?
It's, it's...
What is it? Come on, Ranma, tell me.
In other words...
In other words... Uh-huh.
In other words, it's, like this.
Yes, it's like this. Go on.
Don't go making no bootleg tapes or nothing, okay? What did you think I was gonna say?
On top of getting glimpses of anime from catalogs or trading cards, there was the early internet. Of course, you can ask Jeeves to show you Ranma Half sites for cool pictures to print out at school for your binder. Or maybe Lyco sub that scene from Ninja Scroll. You know the one I'm talking about. But if you were in the know, you'd go straight to the Pike. Anime Web Turnpike, that is. Also known as Anapike. This site would have links to thousands of fan-made GeoCities or Angel Fire web pages with different anime of all kinds. In 1995, this was heaven. No need to log in with your Juno, AOL, or NetZero account. It was free. The page welcomed you with a super deformed pink-haired anime girl, aka Turnpike Trixie. Oh yeah, did you know that before everybody called it chibi, it was actually called super deformed? Today, the anime Turnpike is a shell of its former self. But what a time to be in the page during the 1990s. Turnpike Trixie, you will not be forgotten.
Las aventuras de Fly.
As a Mexican kid, my family would travel to Mexicali, about an hour and a half away from San Diego. We'd meet up with other family members, and since my cousins would also show up, we'd walk to the nearest mall, La Cachanilla, and hang out at the arcade, Imagínate, or Imagine It. There we would play some Street Fighter 2. We would also go to the Papeleria, or paper store, and we would buy Los Caballeros del Zodiaco, Dragon Ball Z, and Los Supercampeones stamp albums and stamps. They were basically sticker albums, but the stickers needed to be glued in. The Tijuana TV station would reach our house in San Diego, and we would watch anime starting with Saint Seiya and Captain Tsubasa in 1992. Eventually, other programs would show up, such as Dragon Ball, Ranma Half, Dr. Slump, and Dragon Ball Z, just to name a few. And also in Spanish-speaking countries, we can find shows like The Flying House or Superbook. These ones were Christian anime, so you get to see Jesus in anime form. Now, my best friend at the time, he was half Japanese and half American. But because we had the Spanish channels and we understood the language, he would always come over to our house to watch anime. And well, he actually learned Spanish watching anime. But then things would get weird because Vegeta would say stuff like, "You're garbage." And he would say, "Un pedazo de chatarra." So whenever he wanted to throw away trash, he would say chatarra instead of basura, which is much more common. Either way, it was really cool that he learned a different language that way. Mexican companies had deals with different anime companies to produce notebooks and other school supplies. But the deals didn't stop there. Candies and other snacks would have promos for anime, such as Saint Seiya potato chips and tazos, or our version of Pogs. They even went as far as producing their own comic books based on the TV shows, such as Captain Tsubasa. They are redrawn, but the script and scenes are kept the same as the anime, and they were a hit. Anime in Mexico was big enough to cross over to the United States, but only the Hispanic community would notice. Saint Seiya, Sailor Moon, and Dragon Ball Z bootleg toys began to show up at swap meets, where many Mexican families would gather on weekends to shop. Mexico was way ahead of the curve when it came to anime. They kept the music, scripts, and animation true to the original Japanese versions, a concept that would prove to be extremely hard for its northern neighbor to grasp. But eventually,
Dragon Ball Z.
the US wanted a bigger piece of that animated pie. So, in 1997, Cartoon Network premiered Toonami, an afternoon block of action-oriented animated shows. The first aired to show that fateful March 17 afternoon in 1997 was... Yeah, it's not anime, but I'm sure the second show was. Cartoon Roulette. This was a slot that would show older cartoons like Birdman before he was an attorney, the Galaxy Trio, and other Hanna-Barbera cartoons. So Toonami didn't start off as an afternoon anime block, especially because the third show was Voltron? Okay, this one is an anime by definition, but at least that show represented what would eventually be deemed the gold standard of anime on American television. Toonami didn't have a big budget and had to rely on Hanna-Barbera shows, as well as anime from the 80s such as Voltron and Robotech. Toonami did receive an actual dubbed anime in 1998, as opposed to Voltron and Robotech, which were completely rewritten and changed drastically. The anime to get the honor of being Toonami's first English dubbed anime was Sailor Moon, which was also held by Turner, so it was moved from the USA Network to Cartoon Network. The Sailor Scouts became a hit and allowed the Toonami crew to get Dragon Ball Z into its programming block. With Dragon Ball Z rocking the dragon on weekday afternoons, nothing could stop Toonami from growing and obtaining other anime to join the party. In 1999, Toonami moved to Midnights and had its host change from Space Ghost's Moltar to an AI named Tom. Eventually, Toonami would be cancelled in 2008, but it left an impression on many people. It would return in 2012 and has been running on weekdays at midnight ever since. Around this time, many stores began to carry toys from these series. Most were the Japanese toys re-released, but there were some that were new. They would never be as good as the ones created in their own home country though. Comic book shops started to hold manga. Anime stores opened everywhere. VHS, DVDs, and Laserdisc would be found at the local malls in Suncoast. The revolution was over, and the changes were happening faster and faster each year. Anime would be shown in every channel hand in hand with domestic animated series. It was a job well done to get anime the recognition it needed. Sometimes it felt like it worked too well. With the internet and streaming being huge these days, it's easy to watch the classics, and even the original versions of the classics. Robotech can also be watched as the superior Macross series. Now we know why these two series' sequels would feel so disjointed and awkward. The thin thread of storytelling couldn't hold on any longer, and the secrets are out now. Anime in the 1990s isn't something that can be imagined easily. It had to be experienced. We had to be creative to get morsels of information, or just get a glimpse of what else was out there that was related to our favorite shows. Anime is inspiring. Just look around you. Whether you're a fan or not, anime is everywhere, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon.